Thank you for joining us on this Shortcuts classroom session. My name is Noah. I'm one of the educators with Shortcuts, and today we will be learning a little bit on the inventory. Now, today is the basics in inventory. So if it's been a while since you've used Shortcuts to take care of your retail or professional products, today is the perfect day to go through this. We will have an advanced version in a few weeks, so if you're signed up for the session, you will get an invite for that as well. Now, we are recording this session, so if you have to drop out early, that's okay. We will send you a link a little bit later today. And we will be taking questions. So on the right side of your GoToWebinar toolbar, you should have a questions bar or a chat bar. So just let us know if you have any pressing questions. Try to save them to the end unless something comes up. And some examples of that are on one of the slides. My microphone suddenly cut off and I didn't know that. Thankfully, somebody raised the question right away and I was able to get to it and then restore my microphone. So absolutely let me know if something comes up like a technical difficulty. So what are we looking at today? So the basics of configuring inventory and shortcuts. We're going to learn what is the exact relationship between suppliers, companies, lines, and products. So how does Shortcuts actually track your inventory? How does the product setup screen work? How do you add the individual suppliers, companies, or lines? How do you add your counts, at least when you're first starting off with Shortcuts? And of course, how to inactivate and reactivate any inventory that you're carrying. Plus, how to view the movement history of a product. So are you selling it? Are you receiving it? Do you want to see what's actually happening to your inventory? There's actually a way to review these things. Now, whether you're starting from the ground or it's been a long time since you've worked with inventory and you're not quite sure what your counts are, let's start with the relationship between everything. So at the very, very top level of all of your inventory, the way Shortcuts tracks it is based on supplier. Now, the majority of the products that you receive, usually you get them from one or two major distributors. So in Shortcuts, you can actually set this as your main supplier. And then underneath each supplier, of course, one single supplier may carry a dozen or more individual companies. And then for your companies, do you carry all of the products from that particular company or only certain products? So that's where lines come into play. So, of course, Redken, for example, they make a broad range of different lines. Perhaps your salon only carries two or three specific lines with the individual products. So this is how Shortcuts organizes everything. And I'm going to show you in just a moment, in the actual point of sale, how to set up each of these individual levels. So let's actually take a look at that. Setting up your products, setting up your suppliers, setting up your lines, and the individual items. So I'll get out of the presentation for a moment. So in your Shortcuts point of sale, on the right side, you're going to go to Inventory and Products. Now, normally, the first window you go to is your actual product screen, where you see I have three main companies, Goldwell, KMS, and Redken. And if I press the plus button, I can see the individual lines that I carry for each company. Now, before I go in here and before I start making any changes, the most important thing on my inventory screen is actually to set my suppliers. So who do I actually receive these items from? In the middle of the bottom row, I'm going to use my pull down menu and I'm going to Supplier. Again, whether this is your first time using Shortcuts or you've been using it for years and you decide you need to clean up your inventory, begin with this step. So you're going to go to Supplier, and I have two main suppliers that I work with. I either get everything from Symbiotic or from Cosmoprof. So if you're looking at your screen and you have a dozen or more different suppliers and you realize you don't actually order from all of these suppliers. You don't necessarily get your products directly from the company. You go to a big supplier like Cosmoprof. So what I'd like you to do is, if they're not already on your list, I want you to press the New button at the bottom of your screen and actually enter the name of your actual supplier. Once you have the name of the supplier, when you have a moment, I want you to go to the details to that supplier. And the details button is at the bottom of the screen. Because Shortcuts actually has the ability to email your rep what your order should be the next time you need to place an order. And that information is pulled from the left column. So for all of your main suppliers, when you get a chance, fill in your details. Now, once you have your suppliers here, the ones that you are not using, so if I had Redken listed accidentally as a supplier and I don't actually order from Redken directly, I order from Cosmoprof, then for the suppliers you're not going to use, on the right column, I want you to uncheck active. And when you do that, the next time you go to this window, you don't see the name of that supplier. You'll only see the ones that you're actually working with. Now, at the bottom of your screen, you may have something that says no supplier. So what Shortcuts does is, when you introduce a new company and you forget to tell Shortcuts who your supplier is, then it's going to just list everything under no supplier. When you go to that list, you actually have the ability to click a product, and I'm going to put something there on purpose. So let's say I had accidentally chosen, and I'll choose a short list. Here we go. So let's say I had Clay Stronghold listed under no supplier, and this is one of my Redken products. So I need to fix this. So I can actually click the little dots to the left of the screen and drag it up and put it under my correct supplier. Now, this is not changing who the company that makes the clay hold is. It's only telling Shortcuts I get it from a particular supplier. So if this was listed under Redken, my clay hold is still listed under Redken. It just knows that Cosmoprof is who I order from. So for those people that have been using Shortcuts for a long time and really haven't been tracking this, after you add your actual suppliers, I want you to go to any products that are listed under no supplier and drag them to the appropriate supplier. So now Shortcuts starts to have a relationship between which items go to which company. Once you have that taken care of, then the next step is you're going to switch from supplier to companies and lines. So again, I have 3 particular companies in my test environment: Goldwell, KMS, Redken. So at the top level, Goldwell, that's the actual company that I work with. And then underneath that are the individual lines. So this is pretty much a full list of everything that Goldwell makes. I don't anticipate that my salon or even your salon or spa actually carries every product that the company has ever made. The second thing that I would advise, especially for those that have just hundreds and hundreds of products that you don't actually carry, is you make them inactive. So on the right column, if there are certain products you do not carry, uncheck the active checkbox. Now you can do that for individual products, or you can do that to an entire line. So if in this case, I don't carry any of the Colorants Express toning, I can go to active and make the entire line inactive. So the next time I go to my inventory, all of these Colorants Express tonings will be gone. So do that next. Get rid of anything you're not actually carrying. Now for the things that you are carrying. So there's a few things that you can do in the middle of the screen. You can set your buy price, you can set your sell price, current, maximum, minimum, warning. So these are levels. I'll talk about levels in just a moment. So we want you to update the names of the products, the prices of the products, and then the actual count. How many you actually have goes into current. So if it's been a very long time or you're new to Shortcuts, this is your chance to make sure your numbers are correct. So you're going to set those under current. In the right column, where it says primary, this is your primary barcode. If you have a barcode scanner, this is really going to help with your inventory. I want you to click on this column when you have the items and scan in the barcode. So Shortcuts will replace whatever was in there previously with the most recent barcode. Now, let's say you're doing an inventory count and you have this conditioner, same size, same price, same everything, but it turns out you have two different barcodes for the same item. Perhaps one of them was an older Goldwell barcode and then a newer Goldwell barcode. So what do? So in this case, maybe you don't want to replace the old barcode because it's still valid. At the bottom of the screen, you can go to the Details button. And under Details, on the left side, you have a barcode option. So this is the original barcode from this conditioner, but I have a new one in stock. So I'll press New, and it's the same size bottle, it's the same price, it's the same kind of conditioner, but they changed the barcode on me. So I'll scan in the new barcode. So now Shortcuts recognizes both barcodes actually apply to the same product. So it doesn't matter which one I scan, Shortcuts will say, okay, it's the same leave-in conditioner. Now, if there is something missing from the line that should be in here, so there's a new add volume line and it's not on my list, then what I can do is select that particular line, add volume, and at the bottom of the screen, press new. So I have a second leave-in conditioner. So this is another AV, and I'll go all caps just to keep it consistent. Leave-in conditioner. Maybe this is a 100 milliliter bottle. So then I would put my buy price or sell price, how many bottles I have in stock, and then I would scan in my new barcode. And just like that, I've introduced a new product. Now on this window, there's a few things that's going to help you sort through your inventory, especially if your salon or your spa is like mine and you have hundreds and hundreds of products to go through. On this window, there is a way to search. There's two ways to search. The first one, instead of opening up all of these folders when I'm looking for something, if I press F3 on my keyboard, and that's a function key, F3, Shortcuts allows me to search for a product. So I can begin typing the name of a product, and Shortcuts will give me all of the items with that name. So I'll choose, I'm searching perhaps for Havana Brown. Once I press done, Shortcuts will put that product at the top of the screen. So now I can update my current count. So I have 10 bottles of Havana Brown. And perhaps I can update my barcode. So that's one way of searching. F3 and type in the name of the product. That search also works in the point of sale. If you press F3 there, you can search and add a product as a line item. The other way to search is sometimes you have a bottle and perhaps the label's worn off and you're not quite sure, is this a shampoo? Is this a conditioner? I can't tell, the label's a little worn. So as long as you still have a barcode, you can search for the name of that product. And to do that, you would press F5. Again, that's a function key, F5. And that allows you to scan in the barcode of the item. And again, Shortcuts will put it at the top of your screen. So in order, again, when you're cleaning up your inventory, I want you to go to Supplier first. Add your suppliers, add their contact details so that Shortcuts can help you place orders. Any products that do not have a supplier, anything listed under no supplier, I want you to go to those products and drag and drop them to the correct supplier. So you're restoring that relationship. After you do that, you're going to company and line, and you're deactivating anything you are not carrying anymore. And that's the checkbox on the right side, active. If there's something that's missing from your list, you can select that line, press new, and introduce a new product. If you're missing an entire line, then you can select the name of the company, Goldwell in this case, press new, and add an entirely new line. Now, down at the bottom of the screen, remember the details button for this particular company, Goldwell. This is how I can restore my supplier. So if I had previously forgotten to attach it to a supplier, I can go in there and say, I get this from Symbiotic. Done. Okay, I get Goldwell from Symbiotic. What about KMS? Who do I get KMS from? I can go to details and say I get them from Symbiotic. So restore that relationship if you don't already have it on your system. So those are some of the things you can do. We're going to talk about more advanced things in just a second. Let's return to our presentation. So we talked about adding a supplier, adding a company, adding a line. So you're welcome to introduce entirely new companies into your system. So products, we even showed you how to add a product. There was a conditioner, a leave-in conditioner that I didn't have listed. I pressed new, and I was able to add it to my list. So how do levels work? How do shortcuts understand the level system? So what it does is it helps you keep track of your inventory, whether it's retail, whether it's professional. And the way you break it down is current, maximum, minimum, and warning. Now, warning level is optional. So the current is how many of these products do you actually have in stock? Maximum is what is the maximum amount of this item that should be on your current list. So every time you place an order, what is the number that you hope to achieve? Minimum is the minimum amount you should always order or have in stock. And the warning level, at the point of sale, if you have this option enabled, you can actually have shortcuts warn you, hey, you're down to your last bottle, or you only have 2 bottles left in stock. That's your reminder to place a new order. So with the level system, you want to make sure you can track not just your retail, but your back bar. So how do you enable professional use items? If you've never used that in shortcuts, we're going to cover it. So you actually have to right click and enable a column, enable a menu. And I'm actually going to show you in just a moment. So we're going to do that before we talk about activating and deactivating. So back to our screen. So the first thing we're going to look at is our levels. So I'm going into Goldwell, my volume line. So again, I have a current column, maximum, minimum, warning. In the current column, I have 20 bottles of this leave-in conditioner. So whenever I generate an order, what should my levels look like? For my particular salon, I go through a lot of conditioner, but I don't want to have an excessive amount. So I'm going to tell shortcuts the maximum amount for this one should be 10 bottles. Whenever I place an order, once I fall below this item, so let's pretend I only had 4 bottles left in stock, and I were to tell shortcuts, generate me a volume order for Goldwell based on my maximum, then shortcuts is going to say, okay, you have 4 in stock, your maximum should be 10, so I'm going to put 6 bottles on your order form so that you can get to your maximum number. So that's how shortcuts figures it out. If I tell shortcuts, order against my minimum, and the minimum amount I need to have in stock is 2 bottles. So shortcuts is going to say, okay, you currently have 4 bottles, your minimum is 2. In this case, don't order any because you're above your minimum. So then shortcuts will leave this conditioner off my list. Now at the point of sale, if I set my warning to 1, then when I'm down to my last bottle, I sell down to my last bottle, then Shortcuts will say, please consider ordering more. You only have one bottle left in stock. So that will remind me to place a new order. Now, on your screen, there's the possibility you do not see a column that says retail. So you can't tell what is your back bar, what is your retail. To enable this screen, I'm actually going to hide it. I'm going to right-click on any of the columns at the top of the screen. There we go. So let's say your screen looked more like this. So at the top of the screen, where it says current, maximum, minimum, if you right-click on the column, you can go to Properties and select Retail. And Shortcuts will actually enable an additional row. So now I can tell Shortcuts, is this particular item only supposed to be used by staff? If so, I can change it from retail to professional. Anything marked as professional, it shows up in italic, but it also hides it at the point of sale. A customer cannot buy professional products. It's completely hidden from your list. Only the business can really use this. So this is going to help you track your colors, for example, your developers. Just mark them as professional. So that's how you can work with your levels, set your maximums, set your minimums, and then tell Shortcuts what's retail, what's back bar. So back to the presentation. So I had mentioned a moment ago, activating and deactivating products. So anything you do not carry, just uncheck that box that says active. Now, let's say you had previously gotten rid of a line and you decide a few months later you want to carry it again because customers are saying, hey, I really like those products. Can you bring them back? You can absolutely do that. At the bottom of your inventory screen, you have a checkbox that says, show me inactive. Once you do that, then you can activate specific products or the entire line. So you can bring back those products, but if you want to see where things are going, how things are selling, you do actually have a history on everything that goes into the system, gets sold, or gets used by the staff. That option screen, that detail screen that I showed you a moment ago, where you can record your alternate barcodes, there's actually a movement history button. And when you press it, it will show you all of the transactions, any of the history that you've had, whether you've ordered, received on that particular item. So before we wrap it up, let's take a look at that. So let's say I decide to get rid of my volume line. I no longer am going to carry this. I make it inactive. I uncheck active and press done. A few months later, I decide that I want to go back to my add volume line, but it's now missing. To restore it, on the bottom left corner, I'm going to click the checkbox to show me inactive. And Shortcuts will say, okay, add volume. This was the one I just got rid of. So I'm going to click the checkbox and bring it back. So now it is active. So when I press done and return, all of my volume products have been restored. Here they are. Now, if I want to see how they've been trending, if I go to my conditioner, for example, and I go to the details button, again, under options on the left side, I go to movement history. So here's my history. I had an update, I had a sale, and that goes for all of your products. You can see how they're actually moving. So those are the basics on inventory and shortcuts. So if you haven't cleaned up your system in a long time, if you haven't really worked with inventory, now's your chance to take care of a number of the basics. Get your suppliers correct, get your companies, your lines correct, scan in your barcodes if you have a barcode scanner, and tell Shortcuts what's retail, what's professional. So these are steps that may take several days or several weeks, depending on how many products you have. So just be diligent about it. and you'll have your database cleaned up in no time. So now you know a little bit more about the basics. How does Shortcuts track everything? What is a supplier, company, line, and individual product? How do you add those? How do you update those? How do you make them inactive? And of course, how do you track their history? So now we're opening up the floor for questions. So if there's a basics in inventory that I haven't talked about, or if you want me to review something, now's your chance. So on your toolbar, your GoToWebinar toolbar, go to the questions bar, go to the chat bar, go ahead and ask your question. And I will check the window and I will see if anybody has any questions. And I'll expand the questions bar. And nothing so far. I'm pretty sure everybody is writing down notes right now. Teresa, did you have a question? Oh, somebody has a question here. Let's take a look. Will I be going over how to put it in order? Is that Soki that's asking? I'm actually going to cover that on the advanced classroom session. So I have that in a couple of weeks. We will be sending out an invitation. When we do the advanced inventory session, we will talk about placing an order, receiving an order, doing an inventory count. So if it's been a long time since you've counted the individual items and you want shortcuts to update your levels to the correct amounts, that's going to be an advanced classroom session because it is going to take some time. So sorry, Soki, I will not be going over how to do an order. Not on this one. Okay. Teresa, did you have a question? I saw your hand go up. Oh, Betty has a question. Supplier emails. Is it better to have both the email of the supplier and the rep for the company? Will the order go to the rep or the company? That's an excellent question, Betty. So let's take a look. So which does Shortcuts actually use? So I'm going to go back to my supplier window and I'm going to go to Cosmoprof and details. So when Shortcuts generates an order, it actually pulls the information, the contact information, from the left column. So on the left side, I may put in the contact information or at least the physical address, phone number for Cosmoprof. But at the bottom, for email, I actually want to put my rep's email. Even though I have my rep's email on the right side under rep details, as far as Shortcuts is concerned, the main contact info is pulled from the left column. So put your rep details on the left column as well. And Andy has a question. How do I organize colors numerically? Good question. So for Andy, let's go back. So when you're on your main product screen, if you notice at the very top of the screen, I have an arrow that points up and it's on the product column. What that does is it actually alphabetizes or sorts based on that particular column. So if I actually click the word product at the top of the screen, I now go descending. So Redken, being alphabetically after KMS and Goldwell, is now at the top, and it goes descending down. So if I press the product column, it should organize based on numbers. Now here's the catch. If you have a color, you have color 1.0, 1.1, 2.0, 2.1, etc., etc., Shortcuts will actually alphabetize it color 1.0, 1.1, and then perhaps 11, because that's two consecutive ones, if that makes sense. If I were to click on any other column, buy or sell, for example, it actually sorts it by that column. So now I'm going ascending based on my buy price from least expensive to most expensive, or current based on the least amount of products I have to the most amount of products. So it actually alphabetizes it based on the column. You do not necessarily have the ability to put them in a specific order if you want. So I can't drag volumizing spray, for example. I can't drag this up on my list, even if I go through a lot of the spray. Shortcuts is always going to alphabetize based on column. I hope that answers the question. Andy? Okay, let's see. So we had a question from Betty. Barbara, did you have a question? I had an alert from you. Let me check. That was curious. I had an alert come up from Barbara. Okay, I'll go through the list again. Okay, Betty. Taylor, did you have a question, or Teresa? Review the same barcode. Oh, the barcodes? Okay, so for barcodes, if you have a barcode scanner, hopefully most of you do, if this is the first time you're just entering the information, when you select the item and you click on this primary barcode, you'll notice that Shortcuts automatically highlights it. Once it's highlighted, you can scan the barcode off of the bottle or off of the product, and Shortcuts will replace whatever number is there with the actual barcode. But let's say, again, for this conditioner, I have an old bottle of conditioner and a new bottle of conditioner, same size, same price, same everything, but the company gives me two different barcodes. So in that case, I'm going to choose my product, and at the bottom of the screen, go to the Details button. Once I'm on the Details screen, I'm going to go to the Barcode button on the left side, and this is where I can press New and then add my new barcode. So what Shortcuts does is it actually recognizes both of these different barcodes actually work for the same product. So if I get an old bottle off the shelf, it'll still work. If I get a new bottle off the shelf, it'll still work. Plus, the next time I place an order, I can tell Shortcuts, from this point forward, this is my new barcode. This is my primary. So that Shortcuts knows if I have to print a barcode, which one am I going to use? I'm going to use this one from now on. Now, speaking of which, this is something that I mentioned when we were doing some basic setup and configuration in Shortcuts, but just to review. On the left column, where we have all of our companies, we have all of our products. Let's say you get an updated price list from Goldwell, and they decide all of the items are going to go up by 50 cents. All of the items are going to go up by $1. Instead of going one column at a time and updating that sell price by $1, you can instead go to the line, and I'm going to go to add volume, for example. And if I right click that line, I can actually change my sell price. So I'll right click add volume, change sell price. And Shortcuts will say, am I going up by a percentage or by a dollar amount? So if I have a new price list and they say everything goes up by 10%, I can just type it in and press done, and Shortcuts will apply 10% to all of those volume products. Or I'm going to add $1, so a fixed dollar amount of $1, and Shortcuts will add it as the sell price to all of the items. So you have the ability to update your buy and sell price for a line or for an entire company by right-clicking and updating the information there. If I want to print my barcodes, I also can print barcodes by right-clicking and selecting that. We will cover that a little bit more in the advanced class. Okay, I think I have that question answered. Okay, does anybody else have a question? I have an alert under Taylor. I wonder if there was an internet issue there. Okay, that's okay, Taylor. I think it might have just gotten disconnected, and that's why I got the alert. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. So remember, the version of Shortcuts that I've been using for these last few classroom sessions, and of course all of the future classroom sessions, is version 8.1. So my inventory screen may look a little bit different than yours. You may be on version 8.0. So if you want to see about an update, let our customer care team know, and we'll get you on the latest build. We'll schedule that in for you. Or if you have other questions on anything to do with inventory or anything to do with the classroom sessions, go ahead and reach out to us. So here's our customer care email. If you need to reach education, that's education@shortcuts.net. And we also check our social media. So if you go to Facebook and you go to Shortcuts North America, or if you go to Instagram and you go to our Shortcuts page there, you're welcome to go ahead and ask a question and we will get back to you. Okay, well, that covers everything for today's session. Thank you all for attending, and we look forward to seeing you on the next classroom session. So remember, if you're new to Shortcuts or if it's been a while since you've used Shortcuts or you have a new manager, let them know about our Tuesday sessions. This is going to show you all the basics, and then in a few weeks, all the advanced things that you can do in Shortcuts. All right, everybody, have a great day, and we'll see you all again soon. Thank you, Betty.